The day began with the final few kilometres of the long Lough Gara Way. Starting on a busy road, the trail soon switched to quiet roads, where I had them to myself. With Lough Gara behind me, another lake was my destination for the day, Lough Arrow. But first, the Miner's Way, which introduced itself with a climb. My legs, now used to the rhythm of moving, accepted the challenge, but the sun made the climb a sweaty one. At Carrowkeel, I considered a detour to the ancient tombs on the hills, but the growing heat kept me on the main route. Along the way, I met a kind young couple who filled my bottles with cold water from their camper van and wished me well. Walking through farmland once again, I jogged across fields while curious cattle trotted after me, their enthusiasm for following me slightly unsettling. By evening, I spotted a sign for a campsite, my first in many weeks, and gladly stepped off the trail to enjoy the rare luxury of showers and level ground. I returned to the trail rested and recharged. Short, sharp climbs lifted me over low hills. This was the day I would reach Leitrim village, where O'Sullivan Bere's historic march had ended in the winter of 1603. Mine, though, would continue beyond Leitrim. The off-road paths were well kept, and it felt good to walk a section clearly loved by those who maintained it. In Ballyfarnan, I ate ice cream in the sun, letting the day slip by watching a cycle tour pass through the village. Later, after a stop for a cold drink, the trail dipped back into bogland, where for the first time in weeks my boots got a little damp. I laughed at the irony, weeks in Ireland and only now getting wet feet. I realised how lucky I'd been with the weather, despite my occasional complaints about the heat. I passed a man footing turf and chatted with him. It brought back memories of days spent in the bog as a child. Hard, back-breaking days. I was glad he didn't ask me to help. In Leitrim village, I visited the old ruins of Leitrim Castle, took a photograph by the memorial to O'Sullivan Bere and chatted to some people nearby who were wondering what I was up to. Despite having parked their camper vans next to the ruins, they had not even read the inscriptions on the nearby plaque. A reminder perhaps that a long distance hike forces you to slow down and truly see what's around you. Morning opened with a gentle stretch along a canal, water gliding beside the path as though guiding me north. Reaching Leitrim had brought a sense of finality to my trip, even with another few days ahead of me. It put me in a thoughtful mood as I walked by the canal. Entering Drumshanbo, I was looking forward to what was said to be a floating platform across the lake. It traversed the lake, but seemed to be too solid to truly call it floating. Still, the sun was shining and the day was going well. Then came a long road that seemed determined never to end. Straight lines, distant hills, occasional flashes of lake between hedges. At one junction, the map and the arrow disagreed. I chose the arrow, doubted it, and eventually sought help at a local community centre. There I met Liam, who had extensive knowledge of the area. He explained the changes to the route, filled my mug with coffee, and even drove me back to the turn I'd missed, pointing out old sights along the way. We talked about the trail and my thoughts on it. When he dropped me off where I'd left the route, I knew exactly where I was going. The afternoon brought better paths, a sign that improvements were already underway. In Dowra, I collected a stamp for my passport, then pressed on in search of somewhere to camp. Another route closure, this time an argument over land access, forced a detour, and eventually I pushed on and reached the source of the River Shannon, the Shannon Pot, after the longest day on the trail so far. That I had decided to do this so close to the end made me smile, despite the exhaustion. I pitched next to a construction site. In the coming years, the source of the Shannon will no longer be just a pool, but a pool with a large information centre and car park. I was thankful to be able to experience the quiet of the area before the inevitable crowds come. For my final morning on the trail, midges descended again. I packed quickly as builders arrived, their curious glances wondering who I was. Though I couldn't reach the river's source itself, they filled my bottles from their own supply, a final kindness near the end of the journey. The trail rolled gently now, a mix of back roads and soft tracks, hills rising and falling. Near the end came one last steep climb, a reminder of where the journey had begun weeks before. Yet again fallen trees lay across the path, the scars of Storm Éowyn. Passing through the Burren Geopark were reminders of an Irish history dating back to well before O'Sullivan Bere. last, I stood on a hill looking down at two villages, divided by a bridge and a border. The end of my trail. I took a photograph beside one of the last trail markers, the little yellow hiker who had guided me all the way. I'd started calling him Bob. Some days I'd cursed him for the routes he chose, others I'd greeted him like an old friend. Now I felt a quiet sadness knowing we were about to part. I reached the village, collected my final stamp and walked to the border. I stopped there. One day I would return and continue north, but for now this was enough. I sat in the sun, boots off, letting the memories of the journey wash over me while waiting for the bus. 30 minutes after the bus pulled away, the rain began.